Like every sketch, I start with the light bulb. This is no different. Got the light bulb, round part for the top of the torso. The part that goes in the socket is the hips. Man, so getting the pose down, had this idea to draw Superman again. I wanted to change that leg. I didn't like how that was. All right, that looks better to me. I'm trying to put more arch in the back. Still keeping it heroic. Now I'm drawing the little schoolgirl. Got the top part of the light bulb. And I'm trying to figure out the bottom part of the light bulb, adding appendages as I go. Now I'm on to the head. Thought to myself I had it tilt, kind of turn differently from the body to add drama. I think I was looking at a Michael Turner sketch actually for this pose. Or, just had it in my mind. So now I erase everything and I'm putting in details because I didn't really erase everything where I couldn't see it anymore. I just erased it to get rid of those straight lines. That's why you draw light. You don't have a committed line until you're ready to commit to the line. All right, placing the knee in, now the calf and the foot. Now I'm drawing details to the girl, have her head tilted down. Her hair is kind of wild. And this comes from the trailer of the James Gunn Superman movie. And that's where I thought about it. And then I said, let me change the pose up a little and have you actually able to see more of Superman's body. So this is James Gunn's Superman. So anyway, I'm thinking, that arm is too long. That arm is too long too, so now I'm looking at reference to see what kind of costume the young lady has. It's like a school uniform with the checkerboard pattern, plaid pattern. So I'm just blocking in lines a little more defined, straightening up and altering anything as I go. As I look, I'm thinking, oh man, that girl really is like baby size, but it'll work. You get the idea. And that forearm was too long, so I had to shorten it up. Details on the fist, knuckles, fingers. Strong pose. Blocking everything from this girl. A friend of mine, Cliff, I told him about me drawing this before I drew it, and he was like, man, Superman's cape is practically a shield in itself. I said, okay. I said, I'll consider that. So I have him using his cape as a shield because of that. changing it up, looking at the size, trying to make sure I got that right. Simplified folds. I'm not trying to make it lifelike. I just want to get the impression of a cape. The iconic symbol. Jim Lee talks about having it prominent. So I'm using the girl's face as sort of a vanishing point and creating some lines, because if you remember the trailer for this particular movie, this to me was the standout scene. Superman protecting the little girl. Putting the rib cage on, adding the muscle detail. Now in the legs. I've changed up my knees. My knees used to look a little different, but now, ironically, they look more like a light bulb. That's right. So now I am putting those cylinder objects that were just propelled after this creature, dragon, stomped down in the middle of the city. And that is what Superman is protecting this young lady for, or from, what he's protecting her from. So some of them, I tried to put most of them following the grid that I had created. Oh, there's my head in the way. Wow. That's what happens when you have no monitor to look at. You just continue to draw. Don't worry. There will be other things I will point out in regards to having no monitor later in this drawing. Now I am adding the shadow. I decided my light is coming from one way, so the shadow should be on the opposite side of the figure. And always I put a little rim light or a halo around my figures. It's not realistically accurate, but again, I'm drawing for comic book effect, not realism. Straighten that arm out. Really didn't like this hair. I didn't. For a split second, the hair is affected by the wind. So I thought that I would represent that by this character's hair represented by the wind. However, it just looked like he had curlier hair versus straighter hair. So, and a lot of times things happen while you're drawing that you don't notice until way after. So, I didn't notice it. Getting all my shadows down. If the light is one way, shadows are the opposite. And really, other than the hair, I didn't really shade the young lady. I should have, but I wanted her to kind of stand out. So I just used line. But I did shade her backpack. Then I thought, need some smoke. It was debris and all kind of smoke and everything just moving. Now I'm in the eking stage. I'm done with my pencils in the foreground, although it's not a real dramatic foreground, is the baby girl. And as I'm drawing, I'm making her look surprised. But then she has a smile on her face. So I'm like, oh no. But I think it gets across well enough. And again, if you're familiar with the trailer I'm talking about, then you'll identify what's going on. I think she was a blonde girl. So just kind of shading based on this being a solid figure. The hair, that is, being a solid figure. Now for the uniform. She's bending and contorting. Got the socks. I think the socks were dark, but I put like a striped pattern. Why? I don't know. And why am I using my detail pen to draw outlines? I don't normally do that, but I did a lot of strange things this drawing. It's all good though. Add a little depth with a little calligraphy line, meaning the weight of the line changes. It's not consistent. I decided to bend her fingers. In that calligraphy line I'm drawing, it gives more depth and it grounds the character or the line that you're doing. Now for this uniform. And again, I decided for some reason to simply shade these in with a detail drawing. Sometimes when you're drawing, you just use whatever tool is in your hand. You honestly could have chosen a better tool to use for a particular thing, but whatever's in your hand at the time, you just kind of use it. Or at least I do. Again, I'm bending these fingers. And putting a calligraphy line on it. So she's up front. Now I'm using the paint pen. Brush tip. See how quick that was? Always use that, Ron Mac. Always use that. Straps of the backpack. Similar design. Shade. Okay. A little weight. I am using a little calligraphy line on those feet. So you get the idea. She is afraid. She's startled. So now this is my big head right here. That's what that is. Try to draw these things at an angle where you just get the drawing, but it just didn't happen. So what is blurred right now is me doing the details of the face, squaring things off, making sure everything is in its proper place, adding some detail. I just put in the teeth. That's the bottom lip, which you can't see. The rim light on the shaded side of the face. Gotta put the S hair right there, which in the trailer, I think it actually sort of looked like he had the S. It was really to the side. Again, the hair, I don't know. So anyway, now I'm shading the hair according to the light source and also putting a little rim light on the shadow side. I have a reference I'm looking at on the other side of the drawing board and the table. That's what I'm looking at. I also see my charger cord from my phone that I had to put in there. Just adding a calligraphy line as an outline to get that head more definition. So fun fact, I didn't draw the pupils because I was like, should I have him looking down at the girl or should I have him looking somewhere else? So I couldn't decide, so I didn't draw him. Now I'm looking at the reference, trying to see how the suit looks with all its designs and intricate differences. How does the S look on this? How does the S look on this? John Byrne said it's two fish facing each other in the traditional sign, but this is not the traditional sign. This is a new one. So I had to look for reference. This pattern kind of goes from collarbone to the lower part of the shoulder. Just getting the outline. That's silhouette, a lesson from animation. All right, the suit is in his fist. He's grabbing it. Putting the details of the back of the hand. You got every finger except for the pinky finger grabbing the cape. And sometimes I decide to make those details full black. But in this one, I just feathered out of it. I decided to do all kind of feathering. Going from very close together to separated. So now that arm is finished. All right, moving on to the torso. Got the cast shadow of the face. All right, now on to the torso. It's that John Byrne top of the John Byrne / Jim Lee. Shade that part in, that's a Jim Lee thing right there. That completes the sphere. The top of the light bulb gives it a real circular feel to it. Had to look at the belt, and actually I was like, I didn't get that belt really right. But it works. It works. Again, a lot of feathering in this. Some of these things could have been solid black. Oh, I did like to put that little line underneath that bicep. Just give it a little more separation. Also kind of indicates that the muscle is fully engaged. I think comic artists are geniuses. The things I've learned from them. One thing my professor used to say is the difference in artists is how they see light. So how you create shadow. Oop, there go a mistake. I did 2 lines. That's what happens when you go real fast. But then just add more detail and it looks like, oh wow, that is so detailed and cool. At least I hope that's what you think. So I am making the fist smaller as I'm tracing. Each finger is smaller if you notice. Because I made it. Oh, you won't because you see my head. But I made that fist smaller. I was like, that fist is too big. And all the fingers are grabbing the cape. This time the thumb is not on that hand. Now I'm down to the leg. The boot. Which I later realized, that's not the boot. I wasn't looking at reference. Shame on me. That's that knee that I've recently upgraded in my mind's anatomy. Some calf detail. We'll get to that later. The cape, shading the side of the boot that's not in light. With what? Feathering, of course. Lines together and separating as they go in one direction or the other. I've tried different styles of drawing comic books, but I always kind of end up going back to this style. I'm so enamored with that image school. Came into drawing through the John Byrne School. With the calligraphy line everywhere and the feathering at the end of that line. But now I am so much more part of the image school and way of rendering. Did a detour and really got interested in Charest's work. Woo! Man, he influenced so many people and really kind of changed a lot of the way artists were drawing. Okay. So you can kind of see where the figures are. Looks pretty good. And I'm looking at the reference saying to myself, oh, okay. I messed that up. So let's just make it black. That's always a good solution. Make it black. Since I'm feathering, feather that part of the calf, and voila, I fixed the boots on both sides. Yep. Anytime you need to change something, you can put it in black. I know, but you're saying, Ron Mac, that does not follow what you said about the light source. I know. It actually does, but it's not comparable to what I've been doing. Yeah. What? I decided to black something in? Oh, wow. Look how fast that was. Faster. Artist friends, blacking in is faster than feathering. Yeah, but there I go again. Closely feathered to widely feathered. Okay. Got the figure in, looking at the boots, checking everything. Looks good. Let me do the finishing touch, the calligraphy line, the outline. Which gives everything dimension and weight. Thin to thick, thin to thick, thick to thin. Giving the character gravity. Giving the objects grounding as well. And this is what's so funny. I said to myself, man, I need to come back and do that part of the cape that's above his hand. That's what I said to myself. Yep, sure did. And did not do that. Shading the cape. I do the face with the detail because it's so important to get the face right. The outline of the figure, however, is kind of just real quick. Thinking about the shades and shadows, cast shadows and all that. Got the cape on the hand. And then look, I put the other stuff in and I didn't even have the camera rolling. So all during the whole background. But you get to see me putting a little depth, a calligraphy line and outline of the street objects that was prepared by the dragon, alien, whatever it was. So if you see, I put a city in the background, put the smoke in the front. Now it's time for the name. This is it, y'all. James Gunn's Superman.
Leron McAdoo found joy in drawing superheroes, but he was an illiterate third grader. So suddenly his mother said she would not buy another comic book until he could read them. McAdoo rose above being afraid of words to getting paid for words. Now he uses words to get people Mctivated about their own superpower. He drew strength from drawing. This is Comicbook Bold. To see his comic commissions and comic art, go to Pinterest.com at that hip hop and select Leron McAdoo art.